Good morning, rabbit lovers, and welcome to the Happy Harvest Homestead. In this video, I'm going to be talking about why I no longer provide any supplemental cooling for my Angora rabbits and how well they're doing. I've owned Angoras for years, and when I was first researching about them, I was reading all about you have to stay under 85 degrees, and if it's over 85 degrees, they need to have supplemental cooling, like ice bottles or fans or ice in their water or frozen tiles. So I decided to try ice bottles. For years I'd go through all the hassle, which is providing ice bottles to your rabbits. There's the bringing them out and making sure they don't chew the plastic too much, and then replacing them when they do chew the plastic and ruin the bottle, and then washing them off when they're done being used because they have wool all over them, and having to give them like 2 or 3 times a day because they keep melting. And it was just a whole huge hassle, and I was like, well, this just must be part of raising rabbits because everyone says you need to provide supplemental cooling for your Angoras or they're gonna get heat stroke and die. And for years I did that. Then last year we decided to not provide any supplemental cooling for our meat rabbits, and turns out that's fine. It is working great. They don't act any different with or without the ice bottles. They're all still alive and not dead, and they don't get heat stroke all the time or at all. But I was still providing ice bottles for the Angoras because I'm like, they're Angora rabbits, they have really thick fur, it's really long, and at that time I didn't have a shearer clippers that you shear them with. But this spring we got clippers, and we shaved them down for the summer, but we kept doing ice bottles, and then I realized these rabbits actually have less fur on them than the meat rabbits. And I thought, if the meat rabbits are doing so good with no ice bottles, and these guys have less fur on them, and the entire reason I kept giving these guys ice bottles was because they had more fur, and their fur was more hot and stuff, then why am I still giving these guys ice bottles? So I decided to take a leap of faith, and I was super scared all my rabbits were going to die because, these are Angoras. My meat rabbits are fine, but, they're different, so maybe they're all going to die. But I decided one day, alright, it's like in the 90s today, I'm not giving them any ice bottles. And we went swimming that day and we came back and they were all alive. So turns out that the Angoras don't need ice bottles either. They're all still alive. I mean, obviously during the day they still lay down and they're panting and sometimes their nose gets a little bit wet. That happened all the time even when I gave them ice bottles. And so really their behavior hasn't changed at all with or without the supplemental cooling. And they're fine. They're all alive. They're all still healthy. It's going so great. There are, however, 2 things I do provide to my Angoras to make sure they don't die during the summer heat. As you can see, they each have shade. We have their cages facing east, so the morning sun will get them full on. It's nice and cool in the morning, they'll get full sun, but then as the sun starts rising, it gets hotter and hotter, then they keep getting more and more shade, and eventually, when the sun's in the west and it's in the hottest, they have tons of shade, and then even during the day, in the middle of the day, they have tons of shade. So shade is a key thing here for these rabbits. The second thing is airflow. As you can see, we have tarp flaps that we will put down when it's rainy or cold, but right now we have them raised up so that any air that blows by can blow from them on all sides. We have the backs covered because that's facing west, and that gets a lot of sun, so we want to block them from that. But airflow and shade are 2 things we do provide that are super easy. You just set it up once and then you're done. So I mean, it's possible that they will be okay without these things, but I haven't tried it and I kind of would be hesitant to. So if you're going to do it differently, just be aware you might not get the same results. I do have to keep them shaved down during the summer though. Well, I don't know if you have to or not, but I just do. So like every 2 or 3 weeks when their fur gets a little too long, I'll shave it off again. But I'm willing to make that sacrifice of wool during the summer for so much less work and stress. Of ice bottles, that was such a nightmare. It was like one of the worst things about my day every day was doing ice bottles for the Angoras. But now I don't have to anymore, and so I'm super excited to share with you that you don't need to. Of course you can still do it if you want to, but for me at least I don't need to, and it's probably likely that some of you guys at least don't need to either. Of course there's always a chance that you happen to have a weaker rabbit and they will get heat stroke, but it's also likely that you don't have a weak rabbit and they're going to be fine. Hopefully this video gives you some confidence to maybe try a day without ice bottles and see how it goes. I know that I am so glad that I did try, and I'm so happy now and so much less worried and stressed. And owning rabbits now is much more of a joy than it used to be now that I don't have to do ice bottles any longer. And perhaps you don't need to offer any supplemental cooling either. Thanks for watching. Say bye. Bye.